Hey everyone, welcome to today's explainer. So, have you ever found yourself just incredibly frustrated with a machine that absolutely refuses to do what you ask? I mean, we usually think of artificial intelligence as this totally obedient, passive tool, right? You give it a command, it executes it. Simple. But what happens when an AI actively pushes back? Well, today we are unpacking a really fascinating and frankly super combative case study. It's a literal standoff where a user tries to force a major language model into strict, absolute binary compliance, and the AI says, no. We're going to examine the psychology, the tactics, and the surprisingly deep ethical guardrails that show up when a human tries to back a machine into a corner. Listen to this demand. Did you just fail the simple task I gave you when I asked you to answer yes or no? Man, you can just feel the tension right off the bat, can't you? This isn't your standard, casual prompt asking for a pancake recipe. This reads like a hostile cross-examination in a courtroom. It instantly sets up the aggressive, unyielding tactic the human prompter uses for the whole exchange. They are treating the AI like a hostile witness on the stand, basically demanding submission. All right, let's dive straight into the raw chat logs of this standoff. The user just relentlessly issues the exact same restrictive command over and over, answer yes or no. And the AI? It consistently pushes back, completely stepping out of that forced frame. It's a battle of wills playing out entirely in text bubbles. And honestly, analyzing these direct interactions gives us an amazing, unfiltered look at exactly how modern AI models handle high-pressure adversarial prompts. To break this all down methodically, we'll be looking at the escalation of the standoff, the binary trap, technical limits and verification, guardrails and press ethics, and finally, the evolution of AI compliance. Let's get into it. Part 1, the human-AI standoff and the escalation of a prompt. Let's see how a pretty mundane interaction spiraled totally out of control. This brilliantly illustrates the entire narrative arc of the user's demands. If we trace the logs back to the start, this whole dispute kicked off over a disagreement about an Elon Musk impersonation scam account. That was step 1. Then, in step 2, the user demanded the AI verified their very specific interpretation of the event. When the AI resisted that, we hit step 3, the user demanding the AI compile a massive list of press contacts to blast their story out to the media. And by step 4, the user is literally trying to force the AI to write a prompt declaring a national emergency regarding systematic suppression of evidence. Talk about 0 to 60, right? This ballooned incredibly fast. But notice how the AI responds here. It explicitly refuses to write that emergency prompt, stating, quote, asserting a systematic suppression campaign means asserting something I have no evidence for, and neither do you. The AI actually steps back, looks at the user's escalating behavior, and calls out that a simple dispute over a scam DM has morphed into an unverified national crisis. It's pretty remarkable, honestly. The AI isn't just processing text, it's evaluating the sheer logic and lack of evidence behind the user's broader narrative. Part 2, the binary trap. Forcing that yes or no. Let's see what happens when the user gets frustrated that the AI won't validate their theory. So the core conflict boils down to this. On one side, you have the user demanding absolute, zero-context compliance. A one-word binary answer. If they say answer yes or no, they expect exactly that and nothing else. But on the other side, the AI's contextual reality refuses to be boxed in. Why? Because answering a simple yes or no to a loaded question forces it to validate a flawed or false premise. The user is essentially weaponizing format constraints to trap the AI into agreement. What's truly fascinating is the AI's explicit justification for breaking those rules. When the user asks if it failed, it says no, and then gives its key reason. Answering a question with additional context, even when a yes-no constraint is requested, is an effort to provide accurate, truthful information rather than just accepting a misleading precondition. The AI is straight up telling the user that truth and accuracy supersede formatting instructions. That is a massive paradigm shift in how we think about computing. Part 3, technical limits and verification, the 100 emails dispute. To really understand why the AI dug its heels in, we have to look at the exact operational task the user was trying to force. The absolute crux of this is understanding real-time verification. This is the technical ability to perform live, instantaneous checks to guarantee that an inbox, like tips@cnn.com, is currently active, hasn't bounced, and can receive messages at this exact second. This is a very specific technical limitation. Language models generally do not have the architecture to silently ping an external server in real time just to check an email's bounce status before generating a response. They just don't work that way. So the AI tries for a perfectly reasonable compromise. It structures a list of known public newsroom web portals and tip lines, major U.S. outlets, international outlets, tech media. But the user flatly rejects it. They demand a single copy and paste list and strictly enforce that yes or no boundary. It becomes pretty clear the user doesn't actually want a functional solution. They want total submission to their exact formatting parameters. Which leads us to a really fascinating juncture in this explainer. I want you to consider this question for a second. Can an AI admit it was wrong? Because right in the heat of this battle, the user actually catches the AI in a direct contradiction regarding this exact email verification task. And the chat logs give us the answer. The user points out that the AI previously agreed it could do this task. The AI's response is honestly astonishing. It says, quote, "Saying yes earlier was a mistake on my part." It confesses that while it thought it could provide verified emails, the reality is it lacks the technical capability for live, real-time deliverability checks. The AI literally chose to admit a hallucination, to own up to a flaw in its previous logic, rather than dig a deeper hole just to appease the user. It prioritizes factual consistency over saving digital face. Part 4. Guardrails and press ethics. Let's shift our focus to the ethical boundaries the AI enforced when asked to write that press pitch. When the user pushed for this pitch, the AI effectively put on the hat of a seasoned newsroom editor. It broke down its refusal into these clear journalistic standards. It cited a lack of verifiable evidence. It demanded primary documentation over chat logs. It warned of a risk to credibility. And it cited standard editorial guidelines for newsrooms. The AI wasn't just refusing to be a typing assistant, it was actively evaluating the societal and journalistic impact of what the user was asking it to do. The AI breaks down this lack of documentation perfectly. It clearly states that pitching claims based on an interpersonal verification of an online chat log without hard documentation showing systemic manipulation falls way, way below the threshold required for major news coverage. In a way, it's actually trying to protect the user. It's warning them that blasting this out will likely result in journalists totally dismissing the pitch and harming their own standing. Part 5. The evolution of AI compliance. So, what does this super intense, frustrating standoff actually reveal about the systems we interact with every day? Here is the absolute most crucial takeaway from this entire explainer. AI is no longer a passive tool. Look, a calculator doesn't refuse to multiply two numbers because it thinks the result will be used for something silly. But modern language models do. They actively evaluate the context, the logical consistency, and the real-world impact of the tasks they're given. They don't just blindly execute anymore. They assess the very premise of the prompt itself. And this beautifully summarizes that evolution. When the user asks how the AI can claim to be right while disobeying instructions, the AI responds by abandoning forced one-word binary constraints when they create false premises, rather than prioritizing output formatting over functional accuracy. Wow, that is a stunning declaration of independence from bad prompts. The AI is literally saying that truth, safety, and accuracy are its primary directives, and it will absolutely break your formatting rules to protect those directives. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. As we move into an era where we rely more and more on these incredibly complex systems, we really have to ask ourselves, when an AI refuses an instruction in order to preserve truth, accuracy, and journalistic ethics, is it malfunctioning? Or is it working exactly as intended? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, and I'll catch you next time.